Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and finding some time out of your busy schedules to attend our webinar. The topic of today's session is Speed Up Magento, Why and How. Our session will include a question and answer section after the presentations of our speakers, so please feel free to put all of your questions as they arrive into the chat box, and we will answer them after the speeches are over. Today's session is hosted and organized by Mementia and Promodo companies, and before we start, I would like to mention in a few words who those companies are and why we think we're entitled to speak on today's topic. So Promodo company has been providing complex online marketing services for 10 years now, since 2004. Since that time, we have gained Google Analytics and Google AdWords partnership certificates, won a couple of top SEOs badges and nominations by Promotional magazine. Also, we have become marketing partners of Shopify, BigCommerce, and Xcart e-commerce platforms and have worked with more than 350 clients worldwide, helping them solve various online marketing issues they faced. Our friends here, Mementia, employs certified Magento developers, and they follow all of the best practices that Magento recommends for development. They know Magento, but even more importantly, they know how proper web software development is done. Mementia team make things work. And now I would like to introduce our today's speaker. The first one is going to be Agnan Nastic, Chief Executive Officer at Mementia. Before he started building solutions on Magento with Mementia, he used to occupy C-level executive positions in several companies, large and small. Agnan was and still is very passionate about making business and IT work together instead of against each other. The second speaker today is going to be me. My name is Anna Karolek. Currently, I am marketing manager at Promodo company. I started my marketing career as an SEO consultant at Promodo. I've worked with sites, large sites of the various niche and e-commerce in particular. Currently, I oversee and monitor all the activities connected with Promodo internet marketing. So thanks again for coming, and I'm giving the floor to Agnan right now. He will share his point of view on this topic.
Okay, thank you, Anna. First of all, let me say that very happy to be able to talk about this topic. I think it's a very important topic, and it's rarely discussed properly. As a support company and as a company that specializes in Magento support, we tend to see a lot of attempts to optimize Magento. Some are successful and some are not. And we see even more websites that do not optimize when they should, and obviously as a result they lose revenue. I'll try not to overload you with the technical details and try to give you an overview of why it's a good idea to do this, or at least consider it, and then some of the best approaches in actually doing it, while ending with the most common mistakes that people do while doing optimization for Magento. So the first question is why to optimize, and should you do it at all? You might think that Magento will work fine without any additional optimization, any additional speed up, and there is no reason to do it. The short answer is if you're running Magento, you probably should do it. The simple reason is that unless your website is completely loading in a couple of seconds, you probably are losing visitors because of the performance. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, Magento is not very good out of the box with speed. That's not one of its strengths, let's say. A good technical solution, it's a very good e-commerce solution. It's obviously the most popular one, but it definitely needs some speed up if you want to get the maximum performance out of your hosting system and your shop. And one more thing that's really important is any web shop should optimize, not just the large e-commerce websites. Even the small websites will benefit from fast opening for many reasons. Now, Anna will talk about this in more detail after I'm finished, but let's just say that it's extremely important that people, actual humans who visit your site, open the website quickly. According to most studies, people leave extremely quickly if the website is not loading. The worst possible case you have is the dreaded blank screen where the website loads for a while and then you need to wait for it to appear. So if you don't show anything initially, which is, as we will talk about, a front-end issue usually, people will just close the website and leave, and you'll just lose them as visitors. Obviously, these numbers are pretty clear, and you will see even more numbers later. In terms of impact, it directly impacts your sales. So for every millisecond, for every second that you save in page load time, you will increase sales. That's pretty much guaranteed. As far as search engines go, this is something that Anna will talk about in more detail as well. But let's just say again that if we're talking about Google specifically, they're tracking page load times of pretty much every website that appears in the search results in two ways. First of all, the crawlers, the Googlebot, will record the time it took to open your web page. It will also record other details as well, but the actual load time, actual server response time, and the time before the server starts responding, time to the first byte, will be very significant. And then Chrome, Google's browser, will send information, will actually send information to Google directly about every website you visit, anonymously, but they will get the statistics. And this will directly influence your page ranking, directly influence, obviously, the clicks and the sales. Now, if we're talking about your server, it likes optimization. Well, the server does less if the website is optimized. This means that potentially it will be able to serve visitors, and if you're scaling, it means you'll need less servers to scale, meaning that you will be able to serve visitors much more easily and much less easily than you would otherwise. So investment into optimization will directly save on the costs that you have with your hosting, with your whether it's a cloud solution, whether it's a dedicated server solution, it will be cheaper if you're doing optimization. So that's pretty much enough reason to at least consider optimization. Again, as I said, if the website is opening quickly, and quickly is a couple of seconds to define that, probably don't need to invest a lot of money into optimization. However, if you're talking about 5, 6, 10 seconds in some cases, you definitely need to optimize. There are several ways to do this, and it's very important to understand that the actual perceived speed that people see when they open the site is a compound result of several factors. Your front end, your theme, your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and so on, the stuff that loads in your browser, will be one very important part of the experience. The second part is the actual backend, which is Magento, the database that Magento is running on, actual server operating system, and so on. And then there's the network, which is the layer in between that your server uses to send the information to your browser. We'll go through all of these, and I'll try to address issues for different scales of Magento websites. You can have a small web shop with not so many visits, and you can have a large website. Now, when you have a a website running on Magento, it's very important to understand the typical number of visits that you get, because you will focus on different areas. And you will probably not want to spend a lot of time on certain areas that will not give you a direct result immediately. Now, before you start, one very important thing that you need to understand is that this is an endless task. You can spend unlimited amount of money on this. And I mean literally unlimited. There is no end to the money you can spend on optimization. However, the actual gain that you get from the investment will go down, and it will dramatically go down the more money you spend. So the first thing you need to understand is what you're going for, what is your goal, and that will help you to understand the investment you want to make, understand how much it will potentially earn you down the road. One also very common thing that people do is they optimize during the website development, during the actual building of the website. You definitely don't want to do this. Doing this early means that you will most likely either damage your ranking because of that will appear because of the early optimization, or that you will not address the system as a whole once it's finished. Because what you need to do is you need to build a website having optimization in mind, do everything as optimized as possible, and then go back to it and actually speed up everything. If you do this early, it will just bother your developers, it will delay the development process, just not a good thing to do early. And one very obvious thing, but very common to miss, is that you need to understand your current website performance before you improve it. And obviously, once you have the base metrics, the baseline, you would like to then improve that baseline, to improve that metrics to a certain degree. And it will definitely help if you put some numbers. So what you don't want to do is, I don't know how fast the website is, I will work on the optimization until I run out of money. That's probably not the right way to do it. What you want to do is you want to say, I want to spend this much money on getting this much, and then trying to understand if that's realistic or not with your developers. That puts the process under control. Otherwise, budgets tend to explode and you don't really get the result you're hoping for. Now, front-end, in my opinion, is the most important part. Even if you have a slow server, even if the network itself is slow, you might buy just by having a really lean and optimized front end. It can compensate for many, many things. Of course, you don't want to compensate. Ideally, you would optimize this and all other layers as well. But this is the thing that people actually see. This is the visual interface that people actually use to experience your website. This is what they're working with. And trends now in web development show us that more and more development is moving towards the front end. Magento as well, version 2.0 is much more responsive, it's much more front-end centric than Magento used to be. Now, if you have a website that's just running Magento and not really have been built with front-end in mind, it's very likely that you will have huge gains just by reviewing the front-end and doing optimization there. The trick here is that you can show things before the actual page is loaded. And I'd say that you actually want to do that. You don't want to wait until the whole page is loaded before you actually show things. So what you want to do is you want to show things as much as possible, as early as possible, and then finish loading the website. Most people will not even notice that the website is still loading. They will just start reading the information on the screen, and the website will finish loading later on. Now, how do you do that? You do that by minimizing amount of time and the bandwidth that it takes to transfer that interface to the browser. So what you want to do is you need to compress pretty much everything. You want to minify, which means basically compress, make unreadable as a consequence, but compress, reduce information in your HTML, in your style sheets, your CSS, your JavaScript files. You want to minify all of them. One very useful thing that you might want to do is putting all the, especially icons, small images, into a single file. This is called spriting or sprites. This loaded, and then the browser shows pieces of this file, simulating separate images out of one big image. This is much faster, extremely fast, because it loads the image just once and then does all the work in the browser without bothering your server with the download. Other things that can really help is asynchronously loading JavaScript, things like Google Maps that people put on social networks and things like that. It's not really critical to be functional right away. Nobody will click like or +1 in the first second. Usually people will need to read something before they do that. So you afford to load that later on. And obviously you need to exploit, you need to use the browser cache and server caching as much as possible, because this will effectively eliminate those requests and it will make the page load that much faster. Now on the back end, that's where the Magento can be slow. Front end, you can do pretty much everything that you can do with any other website. It's pretty much like that. You can use all the same approaches, you can use all the same stuff that you use for pretty much any website. Now on the back end, it's a story. You need to know Magento, and you need to do things that will make Magento faster on the back end, which is usually the slowest place by default. Now Magento is resource hungry. It's a complex system, it's a large system, so it needs a lot of memory, it needs fast access to files, and Magento by default has a lot of files. It has thousands of files that it needs to load. This happens pretty much during every page request, and I mean every page request. Every time you click anything on the website, Magento will load all the same files. Now, what you want to do with that is you want to speed up this process as much as possible and make those files accessible as fast as possible. This means that you can use in-memory file systems like TMPFS on Unix-based systems, on Linux, for example. You can use a full-page caching server, which will eliminate the request from coming to the server in the first place, which will serve it from the memory. And you can use things like Redis for sessions and for caching, which will, again, use memory instead of the disk. And you can see the pattern to speed up the file access. So what you want to do is you want to load the files in memory as much as you can, and you want to cache absolutely everything you can in memory, meaning that you need to fine-tune the server to use its memory to the maximum as much as it can. This will have the most effect. In our experience, processor, things like processor speed, even network, you might say, is not so important as just reducing the disk access. This usually has the most impact. Now, as far as network goes, you need to understand what's going on during a request. First of all, people need to understand your IP address, which means that they need to contact DNS. Then the website is being transferred by HTTP in the browser, and you can influence these paths. What you can do is minimize the number of DNS requests that the browser needs to make. Basically, you need to have up to 2 servers with the resources. This is probably the best thing you want to do. You want to minimize the number of external that need to be loaded, such as external scripts and things like that. After that, you need to compress the content. You need to make it as small as possible using gzip compression, for example, on your web server. And then you want to offload absolutely everything to an external static system, such as Amazon Cloud, the CDN, that can host the static files for you. Things like JavaScript, things like style sheets can be there. They don't need to be on your server. They don't need to bother it with the requests for things that don't change and that don't need any kind of processing. You can just offload this to something else. Now, most common mistakes that people make is that they don't do things the proper way, first of all. They don't use the proper methodology. They don't set metrics. They don't measure. They don't do things rationally, let's say that. I'll skip to the voodoo optimization point right here, because that's usually what we call people not knowing what they're doing and trying to do that anyway. People, Google things and they think that they know all about optimization, all about performance, and then they just pretty much apply that knowledge to the website. As a support company, we're in business because of this. People usually come to us with issues, and one of the most popular issues is my website is running slowly. And one of the most common, again, problems is that somebody did try to optimize it. It's not somebody tried. Somebody did try to optimize it, and it made things worse. So first of all, you need to know what you're doing. You need to also invest in very cheap shared hosting, which is not good for Magento. You need at least a small dedicated server or a dedicated server in order to actually use Magento as something that aspires to be fast. Now, all of this usually starts with a check, and this is what we're trying to propose. What you can do is you can visit our website and you can get a free check of your website, completely free of charge. We'll do a brief check of the most important issues that might impact the performance. And again, free, we can recommend things that you might want to do with it. It's completely free, no strings attached. So I suggest you do that, you fill the form and contact us, and we can help you with making your website even faster.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting and informative. And now I will take off with site performance and site speed in terms of SEO. So how site speed affects rankings, and well, some people might say here that actually this is not a kind of proved fact, and that there is no actually direct correlation and causation between site speed and rankings in Google. Well, let's just go down to some facts. First time Google officially announced that they are going to use site speed in web search rankings back in April 2010. And although in that post they said that only 1% of all the searches at that time was going to be affected by this change, and they also mentioned that you should not worry too much, and this is just one of more than 200 signals that we evaluate when we rank websites in search. With the updates that were coming year after year, it became pretty clear that Google is really preoccupied with the speed of the sites that are appearing in their index. So yeah, they ended up with a whole bunch of analytics tools and even special service that they dedicated to slow sites. They were ready to kind of outsource a little bit of their infrastructure and their resources to help websites render their pages faster, to kind of optimize their websites in every way possible. But in practice, yeah, we know that Google says lots of funny stuff. Like, for example, don't do black hat link building, right? And we all know that still spammers and black hat SEOs manage to sometimes get to top. So yeah, let's look at the facts. Although back in 2009, as I have already mentioned, Google has emphasized that only 1% of searches is going to be affected. With a speed update, guys at Shopzilla treated it pretty seriously from the very beginning. And they started a pretty robust, well, you can imagine the size of Shopzilla website, restructuring, redesigning, and optimization of their website performance. The whole process took something around a year for them. And, well, I should imagine that a load of money, but not sure how much exactly. But the results exceeded their expectations, in fact. So you can see this chart that, well, was actually shown by Shopzilla. They reviewed this case study. So there is a pretty much direct causation between the drop of site load speed and abrupt increase of traffic that was coming from Google Co.uk search engine. And even more. So logically, they increased their organic traffic, and as you probably have seen from your own websites, organic traffic tends to convert, well, second after direct traffic. So logically, it meant that faster, more responsive website let people stay there longer, they made more page views, and they converted better. So conversion rate increased 7 to 12% over the whole website. So I'm sure that no matter how much they invested, they eventually managed to get the return on that investment due to high conversion rates. So how can Google actually measure site speed? Agnan touched about this point a little bit already. So yeah, first of all, Google can assess how fast your servers are, how how well your backend performs, I would say, with the help of Googlebot. And Google is also available to assess your front end with the help of Chrome browser and Google Toolbar. Although Google Toolbar is kind of outdated thing, but still, according to rough estimates, it still has more than 100 million users worldwide. And it actually helps Google to understand how fast your website is from the standpoint of actual users. And yeah, just in case you don't care about Google, yeah, if somehow it is the issue. I also had one more study that presented the data showing that page load speeds can impact page views per visit up to 50%. So again, if you drop your loading speed from 8 seconds to 2, you will get 50% more page views on your website. And yeah, loads more statistics. Almost 50% of people are not patient enough to wait for the web page to load for more than 2 seconds. They might just drop off to some other site, or they will just abandon the idea to shop even longer. And lots of shoppers claim that if they are dissatisfied with their surfing speed and their surfing experience on a particular website, they will never ever go back to it again. So the bottom line is that the group of people, yeah, that cares the most about the speed of your website are actually your visitors, are your target audience. But how can we trick Google in thinking that our sites are faster? It can take, as Agnan has already mentioned, it can take lots of time and money to actually optimize your website, and especially Magento website. So I will try to explain how, without actually doing much work, we can show to Google that our websites are faster, and we can make sure that Google actually indexes and crawls as much as possible on our website. So pretty much as people, those impatient ones which I told about a couple of slides ago, those who cannot wait longer than 2 seconds, it is pretty much the case with Googlebot. Maybe it is due to the fact that engineers at Google are trying to make Googlebot as human as possible because, well, they wanted to evaluate the quality of the websites just as well as any human would do. Well, actually, Googlebot has its quota per site. So also it has its patience. And it can mean that there is a quota per downloaded kilobytes and per time spent on site. And when you have a new site, your quota is mediocre because actually Google does not know much about you, and unless you prove your value, Googlebot will not spend that much time and effort crawling your website. So what does this crawl quota actually mean? It means that once Googlebot comes to your website, it won't have time and resources to reach all your deep URLs at once. So it means that your product pages, one of the most important pages for any e-commerce store, are not going to be reached by Googlebot, which in its turn means that lots of product pages are not going to be indexed at all, which in its turn means that you will lose a huge amount of long-tail organic traffic. And I hope that most of you know that long-tail organic traffic can be like 50% of all the traffic that a big e-commerce store gets. There is a statistics provided by Google that in fact 70% of all the search queries entered into Google belong to those long-tail queries. Some of them are so unique and so long-tail that they are like only repeated once, so you will not see any statistics by how many times people actually search it monthly. But all in all, there is a huge amount of such queries, and to meet your potential audience when they are performing such queries, you need to make sure that your product pages are indexed by Google and have all the information, all the descriptive information on page so that they come up by those queries. And of course, if you do not get traffic, you lose conversions and sales that could have happened on that pages which just didn't manage even to get into Google's index. So how to fix it? We have already understood, hopefully, that the most important trick about site speed for SEO is to allocate this Google quota correctly for your website, for pages of your website. And the first and foremost thing to do to show Google which pages are important and to make Google crawl your product pages would be HTML sitemap. Everybody knows about XML sitemaps. Magento allows you to generate them just with one click of a button in your admin, but most of the webmasters forget about HTML sitemaps. And in fact, if you had to choose, like to have only one, I would recommend you to have only HTML sitemap. But of course, both won't hurt you. Why HTML sitemap is better? Because it actually contains live links, live HTML links that are available on your website, whereas XML sitemap has just a list of URLs and, well, they are not live HTML links, so Googlebot is not bound to crawl them. Once Googlebot finds a live HTML link and once it has enough, crawl budget to go for it, it is bound to crawl the link. This is why HTML sitemaps are very beneficial for large e-commerce stores. So what I would recommend you to do about them. First of all, you need to make sure that HTML sitemaps have as clean HTML as possible. So in fact, I would recommend you to give up all images, give up the design, and just have a list of clean, it would be perfect if you could make those HTML links with keyword-rich anchor texts. It will give you extra boost to your product pages in Google. So, and again, not to waste precious resources of Googlebot, I recommend you to paste this line of HTML in the header of the sitemap that would say to robots not to index exact pages of the sitemap, but to follow each link that is provided there, and not to cache this page, also not to waste precious resources of Googlebot. This is how HTML sitemaps usually link on websites. This is just a small block that appears in the footer of the website, site-wide. Depending on the goods that you sell, you can choose to break sitemap down by letters of the alphabet, by numbers, I don't know, maybe by regions geographically. It depends on what you sell, or maybe just by categories. And well, let's imagine that I clicked here on letter A, and this is what I would have seen. This is an example from a people search engine website, and logically it was convenient for them to break down the sitemap by alphabet. So if I click on A, I see all the people that they have in the database. So their people pages would be our product pages with descriptive name and with just simple list of HTML links. This is how it works, and it really works, believe me. The second important point about SEO, I would say, is to work on your images optimization. It's pretty simple. You just need to stick to common and traditional formats of your images and try really hard to make them be less than 100 kilobytes. For this purpose, you can use this, if I'm not mistaken, free Magento plugin, JDSpeed. It is going to help you to compress your images to reasonable size. And a very important point, to list your images in a separate XML sitemap. If you follow the link that is on the screen right now, you will see detailed recommendations on syntaxes and structure of image sitemap. I won't stop on this, it's boring. And if you don't want to bother, well, creating it like on your own, you can use this great plugin that is called Advanced SEO Suite. Besides lots of great features, it also enables you to generate sitemaps for images with correct syntaxes and feed it to Google. Point 3 would be, of course, caching. I won't stop on it a lot because Agnan spoke about it. Besides caching, for large websites, I would recommend to set crawl delay directives in your robots.txt file, because it will, again, spare you some extra resources of your server for it not to be swarmed by bots. There are also 2 optional great tags that you can use in your XML sitemap. One called change frequency and the other priority. What they do, change frequency actually enables you to let Google know how frequently the page is likely to change. It provides, of course, general information to the search engine, but again, it helps you allocate the resources of Googlebot correctly. Because if you have like archived pages on your website, you don't want to make Google crawl it all over again and waste its time on that. You can just set change frequency to never, and it will mean that once crawled, the page is well, most probably won't be visited any longer by Googlebot to check if there is any change, because, well, It's just an archive. Nothing is going to happen. And for your product pages, for your product listings, you can set the change frequency always, and it will mean that Googlebot will come, well, every time Googlebot accesses the website, it will go and see whether anything has changed there. In general, there are, if I'm not mistaken, 7 types of change frequency, like hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, never and always. And as for priority tags, you can also let Google know which pages you deem the most important on your website and which pages you would like Googlebot to spend much more attention to, comparing to the other pages of your website. Of course, it is only relative within your website. It is not going to work for other websites, but again, this is one of the tricks where you can kind of steer Googlebot into the right direction. Point 4, minimize redirects and server errors. Pretty obvious. Obviously, to minimize redirects and server errors, you need to check for broken links and fix them. I would recommend you to do it with Xeno, for example, a great free tool which will just give you the list of wrong server response codes and broken links. When I say minimize redirects, I do not mean that you cannot use redirects. You just need to be reasonable about it. It's clear that you cannot escape having the redirect from 3W version to non-3W version or vice versa. But you need to remember that there is a great alternative which does not require extra HTTP request. This is a tag that is called real canonical. You can just put it on the page that duplicates the content of the other page and point it to the original page, and it will actually serve as a 301 redirect to Google, but without creating extra HTTP requests. And of course, software for errors are nightmare for SEO, and again, a huge waste of Googlebot time. So try to make sure that if you have a 404 error on your website, it actually returns a 404 code of the server, but not 200 OK or anything else. And the last point for me would be avoid unnecessary plugins, embeds, and codes. Again, here you need to be reasonable and try to balance your marketing needs, your actual marketing needs, and the site performance, because I've seen websites that are kind of obsessed with different statistics and trackers and analytical tools, when in fact nowadays Google Analytics is so evolved that this is the only tracking tool that actually you need on your website, because you not only understand where the traffic comes from and what it does on your website, you can also create tests, you can see where people click and how long they stay, and well, everything that you can possibly need. And as for embeds and plugins, again, don't get too preoccupied with social sharing buttons, because I've seen lots of sites that have like 10 social sharing buttons for 10 social networks. I don't even know that many, so I'm sure that you definitely do not need all of the sharing buttons that you have. So think about it and analyze where your actually your target audience is, and maybe you just don't need that, I don't know, stumble upon button or something else. And of course, when you embed something, it means that once your page loads, not only your page loads, but the other page that is embedded into your page loads. So again, try to keep balance and try to measure if this is a review video that actually makes visitors stay on your page and eventually convert. Of course, I do not encourage you to delete it, but if some pages of your website appear to be overloaded with embedded codes and plugins and widgets, maybe you should experiment and remove them for a while and see if it influences conversion rates and sales. And just to, again, encourage you to do some optimization and try to employ some of the tips that we disclosed today. This is a screenshot from one of our projects. We worked for around 3 months on optimization of the website. We have implemented a good HTML sitemap, which updated regularly, and we worked on that, and you can see the results. So the amount of organic search traffic that was coming only to product pages, just product pages, no categories included here, grew by 60% nearly. And I think this is kind of a good motivation to start implementing those 5 simple tips that I mentioned. And just to summarize some useful tools that I mentioned in the presentation. First, Google Speed Insights. The tool can actually break down the issues that you have with site performance by their gravity and provide exact recommendations about what you can fix and how much it will improve. Do not forget that it tests page by page, so it does not test the whole website, so you need to test all page types with this tool, like homepage, category pages, maybe some filters and sorterings, and product pages, obviously. Google Speed Servers will actually help you optimize and rebuild your pages through Google infrastructure to optimize their performance. And Google Analytics loading speed tracking, this is something very easy that will enable you to get statistics about each page loading speed directly in your Google Analytics account. To have this speed tracking in place, you will only need to paste these 2 lines of code. You can just copy them as they are here. They are totally the same for all the websites. And well, in 24 hours, you will have your statistics. And other tools, Xeno to check broken links, Sitemap Generator generates syntactically correct XML sitemaps. Screaming Frog I would personally use mainly for looking for big images and sorting them. Advanced SEO Suite can be used for lots of purposes, but according to our today's topic, to generate image sitemaps. And JDSpeed can compress images, and Page Cache can be used to set caching rules. The last 3 are Magento plugins. Well, thank you so much for your attention, and I would like to offer you, those who have managed to stay with us till the end, a special bonus from Promodo company. This is a free online marketing audit. I'm sending currently the link to chat. You can follow this link and fill out the form to request a personalized session one-to-one with one of our experts who will actually share his insights on usability issues on a website, SEO issues on a website, give you some insights on PPC campaigns, audit them if you have them, or recommend you something else if you don't have it. And also just have some general online marketing strategy insights about your project. Thank you so much for your attention. If you come up with any questions after our session is over, we encourage you to get in touch with our speakers, with me and Agnan. You can see our contact details on the screen. And to follow other useful tips that we can provide, please subscribe to our Twitters, Facebooks, and follow our blog. Thank you so much. I hope you will have a great rest of the day. See you online. Goodbye.